There we go. Welcome back. Some of you, I feel like I've just seen you. Many of you have recently completed the CHIA workshop series. So it's just a continuation from there, isn't it? I feel like we have a standing date every week. It's kind of nice. But thank you for joining us. And for those of you who have decided to challenge yourself with the CATA certification, thank you so much for joining us. We do have a fairly small group in this class. We have 20 that are registered. And a good mix from around the world. I was just looking at this earlier. As I said, we have several here from the United States and Canada. We have those joining us from the Philippines, China, Singapore, Australia. I think that got all the countries that are in there. If I missed anyone, please let me know. Why don't we, since we do have just a small group, why don't we go around and I'll call your name, introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and just give us the quick, 30-second what you do. How's that sound?
Sure.
How about if we start with how you are on my screen? Stephen, you want to lead everyone off?
Well, thank you, Dwayne. Good evening or good morning to everyone. My name is Stephen Sharing. I'm the current department chairperson for Department of Hotel, Restaurant, Tourism, and Event Management at Indiana University, which is located in Pennsylvania. We're about 45 miles northeast of the city of Pittsburgh. And I look forward to, again, having Dwayne teach our class and also meet all of you. So I look forward to a continuing friendship. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Zdenka, how about introduce yourself, please?
Just unmute myself first. I think that would be good.
Sorry, I know.
Yeah. Welcome. Hi. Good morning. So in Australia, we have about 11 o'clock in the morning at the moment, which is a good timing. So I'm joining you from Australia, from Melbourne. I currently teach hotel management at the William Anglis Institute. I started doing CHIA as well, second semester, which is going well. And yes, I'm here to learn a little bit more. I have joined previously Dwayne here in Melbourne, but I didn't complete CATA, so I'm just trying to catch up on aspects that I have missed. So that's why I'm here again. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. That was my last trip. My last international trip was to Melbourne and to William Anglis. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, February of last year. Hector, please.
Sure. Well, good evening or good morning, everybody. My name is Hector. I'm based out of Dallas, Texas in the US. I've been in the hospitality industry for a good 14, 15 years. Started off in the consulting side, then transitioned over to working for a all-inclusive hotel operator based out of Philadelphia or outside of Philadelphia. And for about a year and a half now, I've been back in the consulting side of it, still focusing in hospitality. And I figured it wouldn't be a bad idea to have some certifications after my name. So that's why I've decided to join this class and hopefully pass it. So, but nice to meet everybody.
Oh, we're happy to have you. Thanks for joining us, Hector. Chris, please.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Chris. Can you hear me? Okay, good. I'm in Hong Kong now. I'm the instructor of the SHTM in PolyU. So I teach hospitality stuff, and before teaching here, I was from the industry. I work a little bit with in the sales and marketing. So personally, I'm kind of interested in this kind of course as well, and trying to incorporate a little bit of this in some of the teaching in terms of helping students to understand, okay, what is going on. And I'm sure this kind of course is going to help a lot. So this is why I'm here. So yeah, good to see all of you.
Thanks, Chris. Claire, I'll let you go back to back, please.
Hello, good morning and good evening, everyone. Yes, I'm also from the School of Hotel and Tourism Management, the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. I'm the instructor of the school. I mainly teach marketing and aviation management, and I was assigned to teach strategic management last semester. I found that the knowledge I have learned in CHIA is quite useful. So I decided to take these advanced courses. So happy to see you all here. Good morning.
Thank you, Claire. Wendy, are you on with us, Wendy?
Or sorry, Dwayne.
Yes. Hi, Wendy. Please
Hi.
introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. And I'm going to try and share my video. My bandwidth is a little bit tight tonight, so I guess it's not going to work. Oh, there we go. Hi. So I'm thrilled to be here. I'm also just finishing the CHIA right at the same time. So nice to see you again, Dwayne. And I'm a professor at Humber College, and I'm really excited to bring this to the students. We've used the Share Center before, but have not really brought the certification to the students. So I'm really interested in doing that with both the CHIA and the CATA for some of the postgrads I teach. I teach a lot of different things in business, but revenue management is my passion and my specialty. So, and I teach it at all levels at the hospitality program with Humber College. I've been in the industry, and someone said I should just say for many decades. It's been for a long time. And actually, I started when revenue management was just first being introduced and the STAR report. So had a lot of years with it. So a pleasure to be here. Nice to meet everybody. I'm from Toronto, but I'm at my cottage tonight and in Northern Ontario. So the bandwidth is so far so good. So that's great. Anyway, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Wendy. Norman, please.
Yes, hi, Dwayne. My name is Norman Chang. So I took CHIA CHIA with Professor Dwayne and learned a lot. I'm from Los Angeles, so I work for a commercial bank, Commonwealth Business Bank. Been there 3 years, mainly do appraisal review. I have a MAI designation, AIGRS designation, MRICS designation, and I do a lot of hotel appraisal reviews, looking at mainly limited service hotels, and look at the STAR report. And that's why I'm very interested to go further next step. Looking forward for the CAHTA designation. and interestingly, like last year, we are afraid we have a lot of foreclosures, but as of today, none of them. So we don't have any foreclosures right now. And looks like hotels are doing very well. And I like to challenge myself, and hopefully I could finish this course with Professor Dwayne. Thank you.
Thanks, Norman. Yesong? Hi.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm so sorry I have been sick since last weekend, so I tried to keep myself disappeared for our class today, not make my sloppy appearance too distracting to everyone. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I'm a colleague of Dr. Stephen Sharing from the same university, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, in Pennsylvania. And I'm a teaching faculty at Hospitality Management Department. And before I started my current teaching position at IUP, I used to work in industry for over 6 years as sales manager in travel agency in China. And I'm very interested in this course because I just finished CHIA in this past month, and I learned a lot from that certificate training workshop. And also I want to learn more from this training certificate program, so I can apply those useful information in my tourism-related classes. So thank you, everybody, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Kevin, hi.
Hi, good morning and good evening,
Good
everyone.
morning.
Actually, I've been I am connected at the University of Mindanao, Philippines. I've been in the industry for 5 years as sales and marketing department, and currently professor, instructor at University of Mindanao College of Hospitality Education. I'd like to thank you for able me to attend this kind of certification, the CATA, which is the Introduction to CATA Hospitality and Tourism Research. I hope I'm able to apply this certification for my future endeavors. Thank you, Mr. Dwayne.
Great. Thank you for joining us. All right. Hazel. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Miss Hazel Princess Ribollo. I'm also connected University of Mindanao, Philippines, and I'm also one of the faculty member and currently a research coordinator. And I guess this is my third time. I already had my CGSP certification, CATSA, and also I'm so grateful that you allow me to attend again this CATA certification. I am so excited to learn another skills that will be helpful for me and as well as to my students. Thank you so much.
All right. Glad you're joining us. And I believe the last one, Kimwell. Hi there.
Good morning, everyone. Good day or good afternoon. I would like to ask permission not to turn on my camera because the internet connection here right now is very slow. I am struggling actually with regards to listening because the audio cuts time to time. By the way, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Kimwell R. Hinlayagan. So I've been teaching for 10 years already under College of Hospitality Education in one of the university here in the Philippines. I would like to take this opportunity to thank especially Dwayne for allowing me to join this kind of program for me to be able to update my knowledge in terms of the latest updates under the hospitality industry. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And I think that was everyone that's on with us right now. So yeah, we have a great group for the workshop. We'll have some more, I'm sure, joining us. I had a few emails to folks that said just not able to join the first session, having to rearrange a few things. As you all know, we are recording each session. I will send out an email as soon as the recording is available, a follow-up email to this first session with a link where you can access the recording. After each session, I will place that recording in the same Dropbox folder. So if you need to miss a session, join late, drop off early, whatever it might be, you can always listen to the recording. And then if you have any questions, bring those to our next session or send me an email. All right. So this will be a shorter session today. And this is just really an introduction. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you, and let's go ahead and get started then, okay? All right. And I apologize in advance. I too am a little under the weather, not too bad. Have just sort of a sinus thing going on right now. I was traveling. I was in North Carolina this last week, and I'm swimming with my grandkids at a pool, and I think I've picked up a little bit of a sinus thing. So, but anyway, we'll tough it through. All right. But I'll go ahead and apologize in advance again if I have to cough or something like that. So again, welcome. This is the certification in advanced hospitality and tourism analytics. This is the agenda, our table of contents, excuse me, that we'll be following along today. Again, just an introduction to hospitality and tourism research. And then over the next 4 weeks, we will be covering a section in the Kata training. Next week, we will do how to conduct a market study, followed by how to conduct an event impact analysis. That's a fun one. How to conduct an economic analysis, and then we'll finish up with how to conduct a feasibility study. Now, an email was sent to everyone about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, with a link to a Dropbox folder where you can access the materials that we will be using during the workshop. In that Dropbox folder, we included this training PowerPoint, we included some additional files. A little bit later on, I'm going to go to that Dropbox folder. We'll kind of walk through there, make sure everyone understands what's included there. I am encourage you to, I want to mention this, in the recordings for each session, there's kind of this weird Dropbox thing. If you try to stream the video from the Dropbox folder directly, it will shut off after 1 hour. I don't know why, but obviously the sessions are going to be, from, almost 2 hours long, around 2 hours in length, most of them. Download the file either, to your own computer, your own desktop or something like that. And then you can play it and listen to it in its entirety. Okay. But we will, again, we'll go through the Dropbox folder here in a little bit, and I will walk you through everything that is included there. So we're going to start off the day with an introduction to hospitality and tourism research, a little bit of a background information here. And many of you have seen this and know this already, but the Share Center, of course, we launched the STR Share Center as a way of working with academia and working with students around the world in 2011. And then in 2012, we introduced the CHIA, the Certification in Hotel Industry Analytics. I haven't confirmed that all of you have the CHIA. Generally, we do have the CHIA as a prerequisite before attempting the Kata, just because, as you all know, the CHIA is very foundational, right? You're learning about the different terminology and the metrics. You're learning about the data and the different reports. And in the Kata training, we're going to make the assumption that you have that knowledge, okay? So as we're going through these different research projects, you'll hear us mention different terms, and we'll talk about different reports, with the understanding that you already know what those are. Now, having said all that, if you do not have the CHIA, that's okay. If you have questions along the way, please ask your questions. Don't shy away from doing that. Send me emails. You're going to hear me say that over and over and over. As you know, send me those emails if you have questions as well. If you're more comfortable asking those questions outside of the group, I know some get a little shy, go ahead and do that. I'm always happy to help with those, okay? So again, we launched the CHIA in 2012. Now over 20,000 students, industry professionals, and professors have the CHIA designation. The Kata is the next step beyond the CHIA, where you're taking all of that knowledge again and you're applying that to 4 very popular different types of research that is done throughout the hospitality and tourism industries. There are 2 parts to the Kata certification, right? Part 1 relates to the training and going through this training PowerPoint, attending these workshops, and then learning about these different types of research projects. At the conclusion of this workshop series, you will all have the opportunity to take the Kata exam online, just as you did with the CHIA. That is a 50-question, multiple choice exam with a 90-minute time limit, right? Sounds like the CHIA, doesn't it? 70% is required to pass the Kata exam. There is a part 2 as well, though. Now, part 2 is the completion of one of the projects included in the Kata training. Now, here's where it gets a little bit different for everyone. For our industry professionals that are on with us, you will go through the training, take the exam, pass the exam, then you will need to complete your project in order to receive your Kata certificate. For the professors that are on with us, it's a little bit different. Since we do not offer the standard Kata certificate to professors, you have the opportunity to get a special certificate. You will also go through the training, take and pass the exam. But when it comes to the project, you will have an option. You can either go through the work with a team or work individually on your project, which we'll talk more about here toward the end of today's session. as an opportunity to understand what's involved in completing the project. You can submit that and we'll provide you with some feedback on your project. However, you will not receive your certificate until you send a group of students through the training. The first time you take a group of students, doesn't have to be a big group, a group of students through the CATA training, the exam, and supervise them with the completion of their project as part of getting their CATA certificate, you would then receive a CATA authorized instructor certificate, okay? Now, if you want to wait until that first time you're taking a group of students through and working with them on their project, supervising them, and as they're completing their project, you will submit a couple of those for us to review. We'll provide you with some feedback, especially the first time. That could be very helpful. And then that would then meet your requirement for completion of a CATA project, okay? So I will give everyone the option, professors, to do that. I encourage you, though, to go ahead and do the project at the completion of this workshop series. Again, it's a great opportunity for you to really understand what's involved with this project before your students do it in the future, okay? Is everyone good with that? Now, the project that we're going to be working on is a market study project. And again, I'm going to talk more about that here a little bit later on. Now, this PowerPoint that we're going to be working from, this is the condensed version of each of the research projects. In the Dropbox folder that you should all have access to, there are expanded versions of each research project, okay? That market study project, how to conduct a market study PowerPoint will be very helpful when working on your project, and in the future, whatever project you might have your students working on, if you're a professor, then you can refer to that expanded version of that training PowerPoint when your students are working on their project. Now, your students can work on any project. We require that they complete at least one project, okay? One of the four. If you want them for the experience, excuse me, for the experience to complete more than one project, that is completely up to you. You could have them do comprehensive versions of one project and maybe abbreviated or brief versions of other projects. Again, just for the opportunity for the experience of doing that type of research and working with different types of data. Again, I'll leave that up to you. We're here to support you if that's what you decide to do. The four popular types of research, again, that we're going to touch on here is a market study, which we know is an overview of the hotel industry in a particular area, like a city or what we call a market. It could be a country. It could be any other geographic area. So you could ask your students to do that on a country if you wanted to, or it could be on a portfolio of hotels for a company. The next one is an event impact analysis. Now, in that one, this is looking at the impact of an event on the hotel industry in a specific area. The economic analysis, this is where we're looking at different types of economic data and how it correlates with different hotel industry data. This could be done at a market level. It could be done at a country level. And then the fourth one is a feasibility study. What we're attempting to do here is really answer that question of, is it feasible to build a new hotel in a specific area? Okay. Now, there are different scenarios you may be working with when conducting a feasibility study, but that's kind of the one that we're going into this with the understanding that we know what type of hotel we want to develop and we have the location where we're developing our hotel. There are other types of research projects that are commonly done, right? These four are very popular, very commonly done in different hospitality and tourism the industries. You can think of others that could be possibly done. We're working on a few ourselves. We're working on one, a development analysis, how to conduct development analysis. And that's one that we may be introducing in the future. Who does different types of hospitality and tourism research? Well, as we all know, there are different entities that routinely do this, right? Hotel companies do this all the time. As it says, right, they could be reviewing performance and economic trends in an area. budgeting, for development, or getting that information together for their hotel managers. Different tourism organizations as well do these types. We find very often, they're doing event impact analysis, right? They're looking at what was the impact, typically the economic impact, but it's also a part of that is looking at the impact on the hotels and how that may have having that event or in the future hosting that event could impact the hotels in their area. Different consulting firms, right, do this these sort of things. They're doing these for a client, right? They're doing these for a hotel company or a tourism organization or maybe some sort of a government agency or entity. Developers, yeah, analyzing performance data and development trends in support of a company or an investor to build or buy a hotel. And other government entities are always doing these types of things, looking at analyzing an event or an attraction, studying hospitality trends in their area. Obviously, all of these organizations are doing different types of research in addition to the 4 that we're going to talk about in the coming weeks. There are also other stakeholders that are benefiting from that research, right? Hotels, right? CVBs, tourism bureaus, DMOs, they're oftentimes doing these types of research projects and then providing that out to the hotel community or to other businesses, again, that are stakeholders there. There are in the CHIA, we talked about a lot of these different reports and data. And as we go through these research projects in the coming weeks, we're going to again revisit a lot of these reports and this data. You probably recall us talking about the different ad hoc reports in the CHIA, things like trend reports, right, that include performance data for an area or for a group of hotels. We're going to look at monthly and daily performance data. We talked about host and profitability reports, and we know that they include annual revenue and expense, right, or P&L data. And then pipeline reports. Those include information on existing hotel supply in an area, as well as hotels that are in development, or what we call the pipeline. Now, there are additional reports and data that we will utilize in to different degrees within these research projects, things like property and room counts. These help provide us with information, or what we call size and structure data on our area. We'll talk about different industry data files. We'll be using a few of these when we work on our market study project. Hotel census database. We know STR tracks a lot of very detailed information about hotels, over 100 different attributes for every hotel in the world. And that is all included in our census database. And then, of course, also forecast reports. Here in the United States and in larger gateway markets, capital cities around the world, STR produces a quarterly forecast reports, and those may be available and may be used as well in some of these upcoming projects. There's also a wide variety of third-party data that can be used, right? And we're going to talk about that a bit. And when we get to especially the how to conduct an economic analysis, we'll talk about some other government agencies or entities and other organizations where you can obtain data. We know that tourism organizations as well, they're collecting a lot of this information on their local area, information about conventions and conferences, a lot of information, visitor data, right? Guest origin, length of stay. They're doing surveys to get feedback and input from their visitors there. That's often made available and can be accessed through them. Additional companies that are collecting specialized data, airline data, things like ARC here in the United States, they're collecting airline data. Employment, deployment data, or maybe the local airport authority in your country, in your city would have that information and be willing to provide that as well for research. Other hospitality and tourism research firms also collect lots of different related data, and then you could access that for your projects as well. So we've There are some additional appendixes that we mentioned in the very beginning in the table of contents. We're in the process of updating those. One of those is, as you see here in this first bullet point, identifying the STR steps for working with data in Appendix 1. We're in the process of updating those right now, and I will be including those in the Dropbox folder where you can all access those later on, okay? In the training, we're going to include different case scenarios to demonstrate the steps used to create each of the different types of research projects. There are slides that are going to display data for a sample market, for an event, for a country, for a development project. These slides can serve as templates. So when you're working on your project or your students are working on their project in the future, you can use the slides directly from the training materials in working on their research projects and putting together presentations for their projects. You can simply copy your data, your related data, your relative data onto those PowerPoint templates. You can update then, of course, your X and Y axis, your mins and your maxes, your takeaways and your headlines and things on yours to make them appropriate. But we're going to talk more about that as we go throughout the training. Over the next couple of slides here, we're showing you some examples of that and how easily this can be done. I know some of you have vast experience working with, for example, PowerPoint and working in data visualization. Many of you have probably done presentations before like this, but some of you may not have a great deal of experience with this, and that's okay, because we're going to be available. We're a resource for you as we go throughout this process. All right. Let's first look at an example here. This is a snapshot from a tab included in a trend report. Again, you may remember this from the CHIA training. And this is 12-month moving average data for the Nashville market. Now, as we talked about this before, this is real easy to use, right? This is an Excel workbook format, so it makes it very easy for you to just click, drag, copy, and paste the data that you need straight out of these reports and put them into your presentation. Here's an example of that. Taking that Nashville 12-month moving average data, here we're looking at actual supply and demand over a number of years. Now, I want to point out something in this template that you see here. Now at STR, we kind of have our way of doing things. This isn't necessarily the way that you need to do things. We're just giving you some suggestions, some ideas here. Now, at the top of our slides, we like for our audience to know what they're looking at here. Okay, so we clearly state here, this is Nashville, actual supply and demand. We're looking at 12-month moving average data and the time period from January of 2005 to November of 2019. At the bottom, we've included our takeaway. I think that's important. It helps your audience understand the most important thing you want them to understand from that or take away from that slide. It also helps the presenter as well, doesn't it? It gives you a prompt of things. Oh yes, I want to be sure that I mentioned that when I'm talking about this slide. Now, this is how we do it. If you would prefer to put that on the top of the slide and move what we have at the top to the bottom, that is perfectly okay. All right, perfectly okay. You'll also see on here that we've included a few other things here, things that have impacted supply and demand in the Nashville market, right? Economic recession or the downturn. We had a flood here in the market in 2010 that impacted our supply. We've included some, directional arrows. Now, yes, you can all see that those numbers are trending up, but we're sort of spacing by putting those arrows there. We're putting a little special emphasis there, aren't we? We're saying, look, it's obvious, but you look at the direction that both of those are trending, right? Here's looking at occupancy in ADR. Now, again, I want to point out just a couple of things on this slide. And again, this is the way we like to see things done. And you may have your own opinions and good ways of doing this and tips as well. I'd love to hear those. Here on our slides, we like to include what were the numbers in the beginning of the period shown here. So if you go back to 2005, we're saying this was the starting occupancy in ADR. We did the same thing with the latest numbers. If you go to the far right, here's what the most recent occupancy in ADR look like for the market. We've also included some high points and low points there. So did occupancy peak during a certain time? Let's put that on there. Let's talk about that. Or did it drop? And what was how deep was that fall? Let's put that on there and talk about it. Let's talk about things that impacted occupancy in ADR. Were there significant events, weather related, political, sporting, you name it? Were these things that impacted performance? Let's put those on the slide so that our audience better understands the data and what caused these changes. Here's another example, and this is an interesting one here. A few years ago, in 2019, Nashville was the host of the NFL Draft. Now, for those of you in the U.S. and Canada, you know what I'm talking about. For those outside, maybe you're not familiar with this, but the National Football League, football, not soccer, what we call football, is a big sport here, of course. And different cities each year host the draft, where they're recruiting, or not recruiting, they're selecting players from different universities and different colleges that play football to come play for their team. Okay. Nashville hosted this in 2019. It was a 3-day event. It does give cities the opportunity to showcase their city, right? For those that maybe have not visited Nashville, this it exposed them to this, where there was a large stage set up downtown on the riverfront. There were music events. There was a lot of things around the draft. So we had NFL fans from all over the country, even the world, that traveled into Nashville for this NFL draft. So looking at the impact that had on the Nashville market, now we're going to look at daily data, not monthly, right? Not going to do us any good. Daily data. We want to look at the 3-day event, but we also want to look at the impact a couple of weeks before the event. What did performance look like? And a couple of weeks after the event, what did performance look like? From the trend reports, we're including all of our different KPIs as well as our raw data. So once we found that daily raw data tab in our trend, we're able to then find the dates that we need for our graph, and we're able to just copy and paste that information into a presentation. Now, this is looking at Nashville occupancy during the NFL draft. Now, what do you notice when you look at this? Well, occupancy was not significantly impacted. Why? Because Nashville already had fairly strong weekend occupancy. You can see that it wasn't several weekends there in April, excuse me, before the draft, it was approaching 90% occupancy. Would we not love to have 90% occupancy now, right? You notice at the draft, it peaked out at about 90% occupancy, but then for the weekend after the draft, what do you notice? It was even higher, right? 94.5% occupancy in the market, even higher than it was during the draft. Also, what do you notice immediately before and immediately after that 3-day event? Occupancy was actually at a low point, wasn't it? The week before the event, it dropped down to around 43% of the market. The weekend after, or the week after, immediately after, it dropped down to almost 60%. Why? Well, because people that may be considering coming to Nashville knew, well, they're having the NFL draft. Costs are going to be higher. Hotel rooms are going to be higher. So maybe they avoided Nashville right around that event. But what Nashville was hoping for was long-term impact, right? Let's take a look at ADR, average rates. How did that impact the market during the draft? Well, significantly. You can see that we were averaging about $170 rate on weekends before the draft. The weekend of the draft, that shot up to over $200. And then it drops back down. But then again, The following weekend, the following weekend where occupancy came back up was very strong, what do we see? Well, ADR wasn't at that peak that it was during the draft event, but it was still very high and higher than the average before the draft. So our first application exercise here, we can work with this template, right? We can, the templates that we provided you with the monthly data and daily data. In this exercise, you're going to obtain a trend report for the Geneva market. We provided that to you in the Dropbox folder if you want to take a look at that. You can copy the monthly data and look at how the Geneva market has performed. And then we're going to use daily data to look at a specific event that is hosted in Geneva every year, and that is the Geneva Auto Show. They didn't have it last year due to COVID, but that is an annual event that lasts about 6 days. So we can take that monthly data. I'm going to go ahead and jump through these to get to these next couple of slides here. We can take that monthly data, or excuse me, 12-month moving average data from our trend report, and let's take a look at performance in Geneva, Switzerland over that same time period from 2005 through 2019. We can take a look at supply. We can also see increases in demand. We can look at occupancy and ADR. We can talk about, again, things that have impacted growth in occupancy, growth in ADR. In this case, what do we notice from 2008 through 2019 in ADR? They saw a decrease, didn't they? At the same time, they were seeing an increase in occupancy from 2013 on. They were seeing a significant decrease in average daily rate. Now let's look specifically at the 2019 Geneva Auto Show. Now again, we used that Nashville NFL draft template and we just copied Geneva daily data into that template, okay? And you can see here, we've added some red dots so you can identify specifically March 3rd through March 9th, the days of that event in 2019. And what do you notice here? Yeah, significant increase in occupancy approaching 100% in day 2 and day 3 of that event. And that's well above where they typically are in an already strong market there. Look at the average daily rate. Now that's significant, isn't it? Where they were averaging 200 to 300 francs on average for ADR. During the Geneva Auto Show, that shoots up to almost 800 francs, a 591 franc premium over typical performance in that market. All right, at the end of each of these sections, we know that there are some quiz questions, and many of you know how we do these. If you know the answer, I'll read the question. If you know the answer, please go ahead and unmute and just let us know what your answer is, what you think the answer is there. If you would prefer, you can also enter that in the chat box. I'll be monitoring that as well, okay? So our first question here, it says that the CADA training covers how many popular types of hospitality and tourism research projects? What is our answer there?
C4.
Everyone agree with that? Yeah, that is correct. C4. Number 2, the most popular topic of a market study and the one covered in the CADA training is what? What are we going to be looking at? I may have very quickly mentioned that. A couple of you put in the chat box. Yeah, we're going to be looking at a moderate to large size city, what we call a market. Number 3, the best definition of an event impact analysis is which one?
D.
D? Yeah, let's go with D, the analysis of the impact of an event on the hotel in an area, the industry in an area. Very good. Number 4, a feasibility study best answers what main question? Several of you are saying C is correct answer. That's right. Is it a good business decision to build a specific hotel in a specific area? Number 5, what is the best definition for an economic analysis as covered in the CATA? Correct answer is A. Yeah, A, a study of economic data for a country or market and how it correlates to hotel performance data. And number 6, what is not included in the CATA training program? What do we think the answer is here? Correct answer is, that's right, D. Yeah, we do provide you, of course, step-by-step instructions on completing a comprehensive industry quality analysis. We provide you with different case scenarios showing examples of slides for different research projects. We also provide slides that can serve as templates, right? But we do not provide is details on how to select your own topic of study. That is completely up to you. All right. Since we have so many professors on with us, what we're finding for that project is that generally, of course, professors are selecting the one that is most applicable for their program. If you're hotel operations, hotel management, probably the market, excuse me. If you're a tourism program, then the event impact analysis would probably most applicable. The feasibility study for real estate programs, for business programs, and for others, that's probably going to be the one that would work best for you. The economic analysis can be done as well. So you can pick and choose which project. For the class purpose, we're going to do ours on a market study. Number 7, which one of the following entities is least likely to conduct hospitality and tourism research? Yeah, of course, A, retail establishment. They're a beneficiary often of research done by typically, their local tourism bureau or convention and visitors bureau or someone else, but they're not doing it themselves. Number 8, how did the slides in the CATA training program help as a template? Seeing some chuckles. For those of you who just completed the CHIA training, we had to throw in all of the above question in there, right? Just wouldn't be right to not have one in there. So yes, the correct answer here is all of the above. Number 9, which type of STR report includes profit and loss data? Yeah, of course, host or profitability reports. Very good. All right, that brings us to the end of section 1. Now, what I would like to do is, I want to stop sharing this with you. I'm going to jump over here and let's take a look at the Dropbox folder. Okay. I'll get there eventually. Sorry. There we go. Okay. Everyone see that? Everyone see that? Okay. Again, in that pre-workshop email that was sent to everyone, I included a link to access this Dropbox folder. If you did not receive that email, if you don't have the link, I will send it back out in our post-session email that everyone will get so you can access this. Let's talk a little bit about what we see here. Included in this folder, of course, this is the PowerPoint that we'll be using each week. You see, here's that Geneva trend that we were just referencing earlier in that application exercise. There are expanded training PowerPoints that I mentioned. All right, you'll see that there are 4 different training PowerPoints here. Again, the dates on here are maybe a year or 2 old, but the information is still relevant and current and very thorough there. So if you want to reference those when working on your market study project in the future, if you want to provide those to your students for them to access on whatever project they may be doing to get their kata, certainly use those. Okay, there are a couple of templates here. When we get to the 4th section on how to conduct a feasibility study, there are a couple of templates that we're providing you with. We will be referencing and using these templates in that 4th session or 5th session. There's one here, a financial template for a Nashville Hyatt. There's one here for a template for a Newark Hyatt Place, so a full service and a limited service hotel. There's also a feasibility study terms. For many of us, we may not have a strong financial background. We've never done a feasibility study, development projects, and some of these terms are going to be very kind of, we're not familiar with them. So we've included this little 1-page reference sheet with some definitions of things that we're going to talk about and see in that last session. All right. Now, let's talk about our project. All right. You will have the opportunity to do your market study project individually or in a group of 3. Okay, if you want to do it by yourself alone, that's certainly fine. Okay, I know some have just difficult schedules, the coordination may be challenging, and if you want to do your project by yourself, that's certainly okay. As far as the markets that you can select, we're making 4 of these available to you. You can choose Dubai, Hong Kong, London, or New York. If you don't have a preference, if you're open to, I'm willing to work in a group and it doesn't really matter what market, I want to thank you again in advance for your flexibility. And if you have someone that you want to work with, reach out to them, let me know, hey, I've talked with this other person and we'd like to work together, or maybe these other 2 people, we'd like to work together on our project. If you're open to just being on a team and working on any of the 4 markets, just let me know that, okay? And I'll try to group you together in a team. I will take into consideration time zones, okay? So for coordination, so you're not having to coordinate with the opposite side of the world, get together on your project. I will try to make that a little more convenient for you. Now, let's talk about what's included in here. A couple of things. First of all, there's a PDF there, reports of data provided for how to conduct a market study. So this again, it defines the different reports and data that we are providing to you for your project. Now, this is a standard set of reports for each market. And this is, if you're a professor, the same thing your students could use in the future for not these markets, but any markets that you might select and want them to use. Now, in each of these market folders, if you open those up, you'll see some files here. Excuse me. And we'll talk about these again next week in detail. You'll see a trend report for your market. You will see the census database for your market, a pipeline report for your market, the most recent forecast report for your market, and then you'll see 2 other things here, a market map that shows the submarkets, as well as a market segments file. This is the latest 12-month moving average data for the different segments in your market, your submarkets, class, location within your market, okay? Now, you also have access to, everyone will have access to those files for their market. There are some additional files here that we're providing to everyone. This is 12-month moving average data for all U.S. metropolitan markets and all global metropolitan markets. This can be used in the comparable markets part of your market study presentation, which again, we'll talk about more next week. We're providing you with global market, property, and room count information here. There's also a PowerPoint there, how to make better data slides. Now, this presentation, this is something that I pulled together. I went around and talked to other senior level seasoned presenters at STR. Somewhere in the world, someone from STR is doing a presentation about every 3 days. We do a lot of them. So I went around to several of them and I said, what are the things you like to see or not see? What are your do's and don'ts? What are your pet peeves in presenting data? And so we thought it'd be helpful to put together this presentation, how to make better data slides. This could perhaps benefit you and you're working in your project. It could hopefully benefit your students or benefit you in other ways in the future, or benefit them on other presentations where you're having to present data. Okay, so hopefully we just thought that'd be nice to throw that in there, and hopefully you'll find that helpful. So those are all the things that you will find in the Kata workshop folder. Again, I'll send you the link to access this if you do not have it. All right. Now, before next week's session, you all have some homework to do. Your homework assignment before next week's session is take a look at least review quickly, that's okay, the next section, how to conduct a market study in the training PowerPoint. If you have some questions, bring your questions to the session next week. Send me an email after next week's session because I may answer those during the session. Before next week's session, I'd like to get an email from you with two things. One, for your Kata project, do you want to work individually or would you like to work in a group? And two, which market would you like to do your market study on, or are you open to doing it on any of them? Okay. Sound good? What I will try to do then is go ahead and before next week's session, provided I get this from everyone, go ahead and group you up, have an understanding of who's going to be working individually and in groups, who's in which groups, so we can go ahead and get that information out to everyone from the beginning. And that gives you time to even start going ahead and coordinating with your group on your project after next week's session. Now, for your project, we're not going to make those due until about a month after the last session. Okay, so no rush. We want to give you plenty of time. Now, that is a self-imposed due date that we're going to put out there. We're still going to be flexible on that because we understand that you're all busy. You all have day jobs, and then this kind of thing that you now have to do in this project, we're going to have to fit that in too somehow. But we want to make sure that you have plenty of time. Okay. If you're working individually or in your group and you don't think you're going to be able to get it turned in by that due date, not a problem. Just let me know. Again, we're going to be flexible with you on it, okay? And we're here to help you along the way as you work on your project. All right. You'll have a much better understanding after next week's session of exactly what's going to be required in doing your market study project. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for you. In other kind of classes that I've done, you know, it's a great opportunity to network, to work with some others, professors or industry professionals, and do this project and learn from it. And it can be a lot of fun, as well as learning some things along the way. Okay. The last thing I really want to mention here is, if it's okay, if everyone's okay with this, I want to send the class roster out to everyone. I will include just your organization, your name, and your email, if that's okay. Again, so I would like for this to be a networking opportunity as well. We've all, I believe, introduced ourselves. I know a few joined late, but gave you the opportunity to introduce yourself. But if there's an opportunity there to work not only on your project, but maybe something else in the future, I know excuse me, professors are often looking for industry folks that, you know, could talk to their class, or professors, maybe there's a research opportunity there for you to work with the industry and help them answer some questions or solve some problems they might have. You know, that's what we want to help do, is connect. And so if everyone's okay with that, if you would not like for me to include, if you do not want me to include your contact information, your email on that list, just email me immediately after this session and I will take you off the list. I will take your email off the list, okay? For privacy, we need to make sure that you have the opportunity to do that. If not, if I don't hear from you, then I will assume you're okay with that. I'll go ahead and include your organization name, your name, and your email address on the class roster that goes out to this group, okay? I think that's it. I believe that's all. So, as I said, we're finishing up a little bit earlier this week. This is a short session. I cannot promise that in future weeks, okay? We're probably looking at 2 solid hours with each session there. We're going to pack a lot of great information into those 2-hour sessions. I hope we're going to learn a lot along the way, but I hope it's fun as well. I'll open it up now. Do you have any questions of me? Anyone have any questions?
Dwayne, I had a question earlier. When the students do their project, are they working in a team as well, or is it individual?
Really, either is fine. We like the teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you why. Because that's going to serve them well later on. You know, when they graduate from your program, they get out in the industry. If they can tell a future employer that they've worked together on a team to analyze different types of data and put together a professional quality, polished presentation, and then you can have them deliver that presentation, present their findings in front of the class or in front of a group of alumni, that's really valuable for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, you will not have to present your Kata project, okay? You're just going to submit it to me. I'm going to provide you with some feedback. I do it on a pass or no pass, what I'll do, and I'll encourage you to do the same with your students in the future. Tell them what they did right. Tell them what they didn't do right. Give them the opportunity to correct what they didn't do right and resubmit it to you, okay? Once they correct those things, they get a pass. You let us know, hey, here are the 15 students that did the Kata training in my school, my program. Here, they've taken the exam, passed the exam, which we'll know that, and they have successfully submitted their Kata project. The rubric that we provide you provides you with the detailed requirements for each of the 4 projects, okay? That can help you in your project as well, but in the future, you can use that with your students as sort of a checklist to make sure they've met all the requirements. If they've met the requirements, presented well, done their presentations, then they get a pass on that step 2 to get their Kata certification. Yeah. So if you would, I see some of you are putting in the chat box, but I don't know I'm going to capture all of these. Send me an email if you would. Let me know if you're good with working in a group or individual again, or if you want in which market, or if you're okay to working on any of the markets, and I'll put that on our list. Okay. I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Anyone else have questions, comments? I apologize for all the coughing and sniffling this week. Hopefully I'm sure I'll be feeling 100% better next week. So
could be some allergies as well, Dwayne.
I think it's a sinus. It seems like that getting in that swimming pool, for some reason, the chlorine did something to me. I don't know. It's odd. But I was still having fun. I was with my grandkids, so I was having fun with it. This is the part where you're supposed to say, you don't look old enough to have grandchildren.
I was thinking it, but I didn't want to say it.
Oh. They're all very young, but yes. I do. All right. Well, thanks again for joining for this workshop series. If you just completed the CHIA with us, I look forward to the next several weeks. And take care, stay safe, and I will see you next week at the same time. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.
Mhm.
Have a good day. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.